What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simply Walk the Talk. I am your host, Joshua J. Holland, and today we have another exciting show, and we got a little bit of a different format as well. And on today's show, we have Mr. Daniel Ebbett of BlockBlueLight. BlockBlueLight is the US and Canada's premium supplier of blue and artificial light blocking products. Founded by Daniel Ebbett in 2016, BlockBlueLight was born out of a need to fix his worrying health issues. Suffering from chronic insomnia as well as eye strain and migraines during the day, Daniel's overall health and well-being was declining, and he had no idea why. There were many frustrating and failed attempts to try and fix his declining health. He tried everything under the sun, different sleeping pills, natural herbs, breathing techniques, though nothing seemed to help. At his wit's end, he was referred to a specialist doctor, but even they couldn't help. Mr. Daniel Ebbett, welcome to the show.
Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
Josh, thanks for having me. Honored to be here. Really looking forward to having a discussion with you and hoping I can deliver some awesome information to your listeners.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we managed to get this scheduled. We're on different parts of the world. Where are you calling in from right now?
I'm actually calling in from little old New Zealand.
Aha, yeah, I've been there.
Nice.
I've been there, and it's one of the most magnificent places on this planet. So, yeah, welcome. So I think we should just jump right into like your backstory, because I would imagine that the person that's watching or listening to this, I imagine that they're like, well, wait a minute, I have eye strain and I have migraines and, I have a bunch of health issues. Like, what is this guy going to talk about with blocking blue lights? What the hell does that even mean? So let's just dive into your backstory.
Yeah, sure. So it's a bit of a long story, or it dates back quite a while now. So for me, it really started just at the tail end of university for me. So this is going on, over 10 years ago now. I suddenly got really into health and wellness. So been quite unhealthy during my earlier years in university. Then I started to actually see, hey, if I actually focus on my health and wellness and feel better, I can perform better. I'm starting to look at how I can build a career and a life, and I really started to place value on that. So coming out of university, I moved over to Sydney, Australia. I wanted to go over there and climb the corporate ladder. That was the dream. Like, get into the big corporations and just work my way up there. That's what I thought success was going to be for me. And I really at the time, I also got into powerlifting. So really got into the gym, loved it, loved lifting weights, loved like the dieting aspect of it, and was competing over there at quite an elite level. So at that time, I really thought the way you are healthy is you eat well and you exercise, right? And that's all you need to do, and you're going to be healthy. So I was doing it. I was like, I'm doing it. I'm in the gym. I'm doing the hard yards, and I'm also like doing the diet. So, gee, I'm going to be healthy, right?
Mm.
But what actually happened within about 3 to 4 months of moving over there and starting my job, got a job with a large business over there. So I was working indoors in a typical office with fluorescent lighting. I was on a lot of screens during the day, and I was on a lot of screens at night. So my career was in IT. So being the graduate, you got lumped with all the after hours work as well. So about 11 o'clock at night, I'd have to start working again through to about 12, 1 in the morning doing changes. And so what was actually I uncovered was my light environment changed substantially. So I was indoors all day under artificial light. By the time I left work, the sun would be setting. I'd be going into the gym, spending 1 hour to 2 hours in the gym under artificial lighting. Come home, artificial lighting again, screens again. And so what happened is the first symptoms I started to get was insomnia. So I'd have trouble falling asleep. I'd sit there wide awake at night. Then 3 in the morning, I'd wake up again. And then during the day, what I was seeing is very, very severe migraine attacks. So severe, I'd have to go find a dark room in the office, right? And just meeting room and just like close all the blinds and try and like get myself back in a state so I could go back into the office and do work. And yeah, so back then, obviously didn't make any connection to what was going on. I just went to the doctor, right? And I was like, well, what's going on here? Like, like I can't sleep and I've got migraines and stuff. So unfortunately, the traditional medical system, the doctors, they just started to try and band-aid the solution. So I got chucked initially some sleeping pills at me, didn't work. And then they started to try off-label drugs. So antipsychotics, antidepressants, a whole cocktail of prescription medicines. And ultimately what they did is it made me feel a lot worse. These sort of things will sedate you. So they did sedate me to some shape or form, but ultimately I wasn't getting restorative and restful sleep. So I would feel drugged out and tranquilized also during the day. It got to the point where, yeah, like you said in the intro, I actually ended up going to some specialists to try and understand what was going on. And it got to the point where I think at one stage I got told, like, it's in your head, like there's nothing wrong with you. And I was like, wow, okay, like that's obviously like, that's the point of like, we don't know what's going on, but we also don't do any kind of root cause analysis here. Hey, it's just like, oh, here's a problem. How can we find some solution to put over it? But ultimately that then creates another problem over here. But ultimately after a lot of time of sleep deprivation, that starts to have a cascade of hormonal problems in the body as well. Other systems start to break down because they're not getting the restorative, restful periods as well. So my health really started to decline, and so I had to give up the gym. Like I couldn't sustain that lifestyle of putting my body under immense stress in the gym with training, and then also then trying to like perform in the workplace as well. So that had to be cut out of my life, and I was literally just trying to keep myself together so I could continue to work in the office. And so it was a really hard time for me. And when I eventually got told, like, there's nothing we can do for you, we can continue to just try more drugs, you're depressed, you need this, you need that. And I got to the point, man, when I just was like, I'm done with like doctors. Like this is not the way to fix myself. And it was quite a battle in my head because I'm like, health, like I said, like, oh, maybe I'm not eating well, maybe I'm not doing the things enough, like I need to do them more. But like
Right.
like and I'm like, so I was really searching for answers. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what, like my job is like analyzing in systems, right? Like IT systems, like looking at diagnosing systems, creating systems. I was like, why don't I apply that method of thinking to the human system, right? To go work out what's going wrong here. There's inputs and then there's outputs, and there's something's changed for something to happen. It doesn't just happen, right? So I started to just research, like getting into the internet and trying to trawl around, looking at research, looking at possible things around what could cause this. And the issue is way back then, sort of 9 years ago, like no one was talking about light and its impacts on our health, because it wasn't really impacting our health as nearly as much as it is now. Like the digital age was only in its infancy. We didn't have I think at the time it was like an iPhone 2, right? Like there wasn't all the tablets and the devices and the lighting, and there was, but not so infiltrated into our lives, so no one was really talking about it. But I did discover someone that was talking about it, and that was actually a neurosurgeon in the US called Dr. Jack Kruse. So yeah, and like it just like it seemed crazy when I first saw his stuff. Like no one even knew really who he was back then either. Like, and you talk to most people in like the biohacking natural health circles, kind of heard of him, probably heard him on a podcast or heard someone talk about him and understand his concepts. But no one was talking about that back then. So I tried to unravel his concepts and what he was talking about, which can be very, very difficult to understand because he doesn't put it in layman terms for most people, right? It's very
That's right.
complex. It's very quantum biology, sort of very, very complex terms. But there were some key messages I got out of that, right? And it was, first of all, like there's a quote, actually, there's a big quote that stuck with me, and it sticks with me to this day. It was a very simple one. It was like, health is about light, not food. And I was like, whoa, what are you talking about, man? It's like what you eat that's going to determine how healthy you are. And what he meant by that is, like, so many people are focused on what diet they're eating, like how many carbs, is it keto, is it this, is it that, like trying to dial in to the nth degree, but they're completely disregarding a factor so more important above that, right? And he was like calling like the food gurus, right? And like bulletproof diet, bulletproof coffee, keto this, carnivore, and it's like none of that matters unless you're doing the other things above that level that are going to significantly impact your health.
Right.
And so I just started to absorb and learn his concepts. And one of them was talking about, well, one of his main pillars is light. He's got three. It's light, water, and magnetism. Really started to focus in on the light aspect because I felt like that was something, when I looked at my own lifestyle, was having a significant impact. And it was in particular around looking at blue light, which is primarily, we are taking that in from most artificial sources in a very unnatural state, not how we normally consume blue light in nature. And I looked at my own lifestyle and said, well, yeah, like, holy shit, like I'm just indoors all the time. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, yeah, like
Right.
it just made sense, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, how do I change this, right? Because I work in an office. I can't go in and just shut all the lights off and not work on screens. Like, I get what you're telling me, Jack, but like, what do I do, right? And at the time, like, there was no such thing as blue light glasses, really. They kind of existed, but the way they existed was in a way that there was like repurposing safety glasses, right? Like they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, they're
I have a
yeah,
pair,
like
or I have a few pairs actually. Yeah.
yeah, like they're called UVEX, right? Which UVEX
Hmm.
is a safety glasses brand. Like, hey, if you buy these, they can mitigate like 99% of blue light. I was like, well, fuck, I'll give that a try. Like, but I literally couldn't find them in Australia. I ordered them off Amazon eventually from the US, got them over. Started wearing them. I actually even started wearing them in the office. I was like that desperate, like during migraine attacks and stuff. People were like looking at me like, who is this guy? Like
Mm.
wearing these big, ugly like glasses. And I primarily started to use them at the right times, like mitigating the light at night to try and allow the blue light exposure at night to not have the impact of daylight on my brain at night. And yeah, within the space, it was very, very quick to notice that yeah, this is the first thing I've done in like the last year that has actually started to move the dial in the right direction. And so that to me was like, okay, there's something here and I need to look into it more. And from that point, like it certainly helped turn things around. My sleeping started to resolve, which then in turn started to help resolve my migraines. But it certainly wasn't a like, hey, put these glasses on and everything's like fixed itself. So what it led to is more research, right? And to understand what the research says about this and how it works. And what I found was like, hey, like these glasses are a good step, but they're not actually optimal in terms of what the science tells us,
Hmm.
in terms of what frequencies of light you need to block at certain times of day. So using them during the daytime wasn't a good idea, right? That's what I learned. I'm like, oh, wait, now I'm blocking most of the light. My brain's not getting enough blue light. And then at night, it wasn't still blocking enough to align with like academic research on certain frequencies that could disrupt melatonin. So I guess what I initially started doing was like, I saw how much of a profound impact it had on me, and it started to unravel a lot of the pain I went through to get to this point, right? And I had no intentions of starting a business or anything. I was like, oh, this is my calling or anything, but I was like, I want to help other people not go through what I just went through, right? Like, let's make this more available. So I just initially started doing is like importing UVX glasses from the US just to make them available in Australia. Like, I was like,
Wow.
let's just get a website up. This is 2016. Get a
Yeah.
website up, start selling them, like, and start telling the story, right? And see what we can do. And yeah, it was interesting because, like, I guess for the first like 2 to 3 years, people just thought I was crazy. Like, it wasn't a big thing, but yeah, there was certainly like there were some people that understood it and were buying them, but it wasn't until we started to see this evolvement of technology, right? 2016 to 2022, you look at where we've come and how much of a problem it is now versus it was then. And so yeah, I've just been on the journey since then of like, how can we start to create products to allow us to interface with the current world we live in. Like, I'm all for technology. I think it's got some really benefits to society, but it's a double-edged sword, right? It can be very harmful to us as well. So I'm trying to look at ways and how we can utilize it for the good and mitigate the bad. And so I guess that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years, is really just looking at different ways, different what tools, techniques, products, but also educating on the problem and seeing if we can, live better, healthier lives in today's world.
I I love it, and thanks for the very thorough background on it, because I imagine that you know before we started recording, you were mentioning that you were among the first to sort of bring this to market, or at least bring this idea out. And I remember when I first got involved with the technology, or the understanding of the need to block blue and white light, and artificial light in general. We call it light pollution. I immediately started doing what you were doing, which was like looking around to see what was available, because I'm a research geek. I love to kind of geek out on stuff and go down many rabbit holes. I've been down many rabbit holes, uh, and I came across basically the same thing you came across, and I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and get it. And like, nobody's really here watching me wear these things. And then I distinctly remember thinking at the time, I was like, ooh, maybe Bono and maybe Elton John were onto something, because like, you could do a simple Google search and find like Bono's glasses. And I'm thinking, was he really like blocking blue light, or is he just kind of trying to be different? Which then obviously ultimately led me to understanding the importance of the need for blue and white light early in the day, and then to obviously mitigate any sort of blue and white light, and even green light in the evening, right? So I'm certain we're going to get down that path, and we can discuss all of the importance of that. But I do think that it is important that people understand that, and you can explain this further. We do need light. Light is important. You mentioned that with the quote from Jack Cruz. It's just like food and just like exercise. We got to get the right amount. We need to know like what it's useful for, and then we need to know how to mitigate the things that are not good for us, because not all light is good, not all food is good, and not all exercise is good, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you started your company, and you were sort of, you know, what we would say the equivalent of selling out of your trunk, like selling CDs out of your trunk. You were hustling, buying these wood shop glasses. And when did you make that change? Like, when did you see things really start to take off, and and I guess at some point you decided to kind of build this brand? Like, when did that happen, and how did it happen?
It all just kind of it all just fell into place by itself, to be honest. Like I said, like again, like I wasn't really looking to be like an entrepreneur or a businessman. Like, I still had quite a good passion for IT and technology and systems. So I just continued to let it organically do its thing, right? And I just getting more and more people requesting things and wanting this, and the market was wanting more solutions as they became more of a problem. So I just actually continued to I continued my job right up until 2019 as an IT specialist. I built up quite a decent career in that field, and I just continued to create systems in this business that allowed me to work a job and work this and continue to build things. And then I guess I got to a point where I realized that, like, more so as it organically built itself, that this was more my calling, right? I felt more sense of fulfillment being able to build products and build solutions and educate people and see the changes in their lives. And versus I felt a little bit more unfulfilled as I started building my career in IT and just building an IT system for a business, right? Like there's a very different sense of fulfillment from the different things, right? So there was just a shift in myself, and I was like, whoa, okay, maybe like, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had a unique take on the whole situation with what we did, because over these years, right, we've watched the industry evolve. We were one of the first movers into the industry, not really driven financially to grow to dominate the world. That wasn't what my mission or purpose was. But then we've watched, when something in the world gains a bit of popularity, you see people see the opportunity to come and make a quick buck and make money and take advantage of that fad or that growing wave. And that's certainly what we've seen in the blue light glasses, blue light industry. And I guess that drove me more to try and, I guess, to me, I stood back and saw this starting to happen, and that drove me more to be like, hey, we need to make sure like people were actually buying the right products and actually are doing right for their health. And so I just naturally was like, well, let's make sure we're getting out there and educating people, because to me that's more of you don't need to be buying my products, but you need to be buying the right products, right? Because ultimately then it's not going to be doing the right thing for your health, and people are being misled.
Yeah.
So that was a big driver for me, just being at the start in the infancy of the blue light industry, to watching it evolve, to then being so much like confusion in the industry and misinformation around what's what, to then me being like, okay, well, I need to be in this industry setting the right tone, the right education, and then ultimately not necessarily buying our products, but having those products available from us as well. And then looking beyond the glasses, right? Like it's just people are so focused on, oh, well, we can just sell a set of glasses, and going, what's the bigger problem here? And how can we solve it with other ways that we can interface into our lifestyle beyond putting a set of glasses on?
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I think I wanted to get into that too, because I think, I was reading up on you and trying to prepare for the show today, and I noticed a few things in there that also sort of concerned me with the industry as well. And I think you've addressed that, which I think is really, really cool. So this is a good little segue into the next part. So before we talk about that, I think we're right up on the time for the Pomodoro break. So many of the people that follow the show, they know that at some point throughout this show, we like to break the monotony. And that can be if you're standing like I am for the whole time, or if you're sitting like others are, or if you're even just in one thought process for a certain period of time. I like to kind of break that up a little bit so that we can come back with new, fresh perspectives. And we can also, especially when it comes to sitting, we just need to get out of those positions, right? So what is something you would do in situations like this? What would you do for yourself?
Yeah, that's a good one, because I'm a big fan of that as well, to clear the mind and um, ensure that you're not just hyper focused on something. So what I actually do, and a big fan of promoting, is we're indoors. I'm on my screens a lot. Like is getting outside, right? Like getting outside, taking a break, just taking in the natural light environment, and then coming back in. So probably not the most like for a podcast here, but
Hey,
if that's what we're doing, man,
yeah, hey,
I'm all
don't
for it.
don't talk about it, be about it.
All right,
Let's do
I'll
it.
be back then, man.
Right. So for, for anyone that is listening or watching, Dan has left the building. He literally has left the building. He's going outside. he is going to surround himself with the environment and just sort of breaks up this sort of screen situation. And while we wait for him to come back, Gordon, you'll hear the voice of Gordon here in a moment, but I know you're a heavy screen person too, right? So
Mhm.
like if there's anything that Dan and I are talking about that maybe you want to know, feel free to jump in, because I like it when people ask questions that are like legitimately need to be answered. And so
Yeah.
we'll go from there.
Yeah. I I'm a heavy screen user myself, so I'm kind of the ideal demographic for this. And I'm actually this is one of those subjects I've heard a lot about, but I'm not very versed on. So one of the things I was just actually looking up different products and was debating which one would be best. So I guess sort of what are the current sort of main products? I know he talked about the glasses, and I was looking at those, but also I've seen little screen sort of shields they put on computers as well. And I guess just if I'm looking on his website versus Amazon, what is sort of the best way to find something that's actually going to do the trick? Sort of, some of those basic questions.
Yeah, and Dan, before you answer that, if you don't mind, that's a very good point, Gordon, because um, I mean, like you actually wrapped that up perfectly, because the what I hear a lot, because I'm also a big fan of blocking blue light and understanding our environment, how it works. The question I get a lot is this sense of like, what's the one thing I can get that's going to fix my light situation? And usually it's not just one thing. In fact, it's a multitude of things usually. So I'm sure Daniel will be the first to kind of explain that, but you can go in there. But I just want to make sure that whatever is said, that we leave people with this understanding of, you may have to do as much as, like in my apartment here, I can control the temperature of the lights. I have like little night lights. I have a little like small flashlight, and everything is normally set for nighttime to mimic fire. Like what would fire look like, right? Like it's kind of reddish orange tint. But of course, Daniel can kind of go even deeper. But yeah, please go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. So first of all, Josh, I think I wanted to just explain like what that did for me, like actually going outside and like
Oh,
taking that
please,
break, because
please.
it's not just a break for me. Like there's so much more that means. It's not just a break from the computer. So
Mm,
when you look at even my indoor lifestyle, indoor lighting and everything in here is actually very, very set up very well. So I've got a window right here. We're all naturally lit. We do have lights on in here, but they're all like optimized lighting that we have. So, and my screens are all got running like Iris software on there, so I'm not getting too much blue light exposure there. So ultimately, I'm set up quite well. But the one thing I'm still missing that I can't get in here is that you do get from outside, right? So indoor lighting, typically, so you measure lighting and you can measure it on a brightness level called like it's called lux, which is the brightness level. So typically on an indoor lit lifestyle environment, it's anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 lux is the level of intensity of light you're getting. Now outside, so at the moment it is a bit of a cloudy day out there, but if I go outside even on an overcast day, you'll be up at 10 to 20,000 lux of intensity of light. On a sunny day, it can go up to 100,000 lux. So you can't, no matter what your lighting like is, and you could have all the perfect natural windows and all that, you're still not getting that level of intensity of light. That's very important during the day. Light during the day is very good, very needed for mood regulation, for energy levels, for the right hormones, neurotransmitters to be released, right? So if you spend all this time indoors, even if you have all the right tools and lighting and screen filters and glasses, you're still not replicating outdoors. And there's also two important frequencies we get outdoors, which is infrared light and UV light. So that doesn't really generally pass through windows. It's filtered
mm,
out. And those are very beneficial wavelengths to the body. So now what I'm doing when I go outside, even if it's just for a minute, I'm taking in those light signals into my brain, and it's checking into my master clock system that runs my circadian rhythm, my day and night cycles. The frequencies of light are changing constantly throughout the day. and your eyes taking that in is almost like checking into your master clock for it to be in sync with what's happening during the day to ensure your hormones or neurotransmitters are being released at the right time of the day. Now that's going to play into how things go for me at nighttime. Regardless of all the blue light I block at night, if I don't do things right during the day, it's what you do during the day as well, which is actually setting you up for how things go at nighttime. Now, one of the biggest things we get from our customers, like they're like, I'm doing all the things, like I've got the glasses, I've got the lighting, I'm doing all that, and they're not working. Like I don't buy it. Like, it's not working. And then the question is like, okay, what are you doing during the daytime? Oh, well, I work in a dark room and I don't, I'm on the screens all day. And it's like, what? That doesn't work, right? Like, so if we get a little bit sciencey here, it's like what happens from the natural light you get exposed to during the day, you get particularly the blue light from the sun, full spectrum light, plus the infrared, that comes into your eyes, it's onto your skin, that stimulates two main things, two main neurotransmitters. You've got serotonin, which is primarily made in the gut, and you've got dopamine. So dopamine's what is like a reward neurotransmitter. It makes us feel good, happy, awake, alert, gives us motivation to do things during the day. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that primarily will be converted. It's a level up and is converted to melatonin at night. So it is the raw building blocks to melatonin. So you can do all the things right to get good melatonin, block all the blue light. But if you don't have any serotonin, or you got suboptimal levels of serotonin, you'll have suboptimal levels of melatonin.
Yep.
So that's why it's so important that you're actually getting that natural light exposure during the day, and then coupling that with removing the artificial light exposure at night. When you marry those two things together, that's when magic happens, right? You do one or the other, it doesn't work so well.
Right. Well, if I could add another layer to that, right? So again, this goes back to what I was saying before you answered that, Dan, is there's so much complexity, and it doesn't have to be complex, right? Because we can just go outside, as you said. We can go outside when it's daytime, and we can go inside when it's nighttime, and keep the lights off or whatever. But another thing that I think is also important in that conversation around making sure that we get enough light in the daytime to kind of reset that circadian rhythm, and then we don't get that type of light at night, also is the grounding component. So what I imagined when you went outside is like, going outside not only should allow us to get the right amount of light and hopefully do some kind of breath work or breathing or something, but we should also kick our shoes off and put our feet in the ground, right? And this is also what we don't get when we're indoors all the time. So even if you're indoors all the time and you got all the lighting right and you got all of this right, if we're never grounded and we're always in an insulated home or situation, then we're also going to be missing a bunch of healing components and a bunch of things that will help us to truly live an optimized, healthy life. So this is why I say it's like, before diving into like the different products that one can get, it's like we've got to understand that there's so much we can always add to it. But one of the best things we can do is just kick off your shoes, be barefoot, go outside, take in the sun when it's out, and there's different times you can measure it and all that stuff. But we should also keep in mind that grounding is very, very important. So
couldn't agree more. I'm standing on a grounding mat right now.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
But again, like that, this is a hack that I use for my indoor lifestyle, but it's not a complete replacement for getting outside and being in the ground. And another thing is like I talked about the reasons why I do it for the light and all that and all the cascade of neurotransmitters and stuff. But yeah, it's more than that, right? It's something about, like, everyone knows how good they feel when they go outside and just take a moment in to get in the sun, right? It's good for the mind, it's good for the body, it's good for the soul. It's not just it's the right light and all that. Like, yeah, it's multifactorial. And I'm like, it's like, I like looking at it like I'm stacking all these benefits of taking a 5-minute break outside versus staying inside and doing something else, right? It's so that's my tool. And it's always like rain, hail, sunshine, doesn't matter, I'm out there, right? Because
get the elements.
Yeah,
Yeah, get in the elements because again, like to even level up beyond that, right? Like getting outside when it's wintertime, like how how often are we in comfort, right? Most of the time we are in constant comfort, which, I always say, like when people ask me what is a biohacker, I say at the end of the day, we're all biohackers. If you've ever turned off a light switch or you've adjusted the temperature in your home, you're essentially a biohacker, right? But that it's also because I know that we in today's world, we constantly want to be comfortable, but our ancestors weren't always comfortable, right?
Mm.
They were sleeping when it was cold outside, and maybe they didn't have like a good fireplace or whatever. So um, we need to learn to get outside every once in a while, whether it's raining, it's super cold. Like right now, it's super cold here in New York. We got a little bit of snow last night. But I'm outside when I need to be. And I think that's very, very important. So to kind of touch on what Gordon was asking about, and I think this will be a good segue for this, is so we know we got the glasses, right? And the glasses don't quite fix everything because let's face it, you can still get light through the sides of the eyes and maybe above and below. And then also there's, our skin absorbs everything, right? So we're even, I think there was a research study that did some discussions around, like, even if you had like a small dime size amount of light on your leg and you're at night, it's enough to kind of trigger you out of a deep sleep state. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the things that a person could get if they so desired or they so needed to.
Yeah, so I can unpack a bit of that. So first of all, the glasses is an interesting one. I just wanted to touch on one thing about the glasses that you mentioned. So it's actually a common question, like coming in the sides and the top, is that undoing all the good things, right? And it's actually quite interesting because we looked into this a lot as we started to create more stylish glasses, not using the wraparound style, and going, is it ruining the effectiveness of them? And it's actually quite interesting because when you look at the structure of the eye and you look at what's actually happening from a light signaling point of view, is so in our eye we've got receptors in there called rods and cones. So they're responsible for taking light signals, sending them to the brain for vision, for sight. But what they actually discovered, and it's not that long ago, I think they discovered like in 1998, inside the eye we've got other receptors which are called they're photosensitive receptors called melanopsin receptors. Now these receptors, they live in the center of the eye and the iris, and they essentially are activated from blue light. So there's a direct nerve in the optic nerve that goes into the center of our brain, which is the SCM, which essentially runs the body clock or the circadian rhythm. So under blue light, these receptors are activated. So if blue light is getting into the eye, into them, it's setting and then it's starting that cascade of, hey, it's daytime or it's midday sun, depending on the intensity of the light coming in. Now, because those receptors are only in the inner iris, peripheral light generally will not enter in. So if you're looking forward and you've got your glasses on, but light's coming in from the sides and the top, if your line of sight's going forward, that light's only getting to the peripheral of your eyes. It's not getting into the center. Now, it would, if you say had your glasses on, but you keep looking off to the side or looking up and down, then you're pointing your iris at the light source and it is now getting it. So in general, you can get away with a set of glasses, light coming in sides of the top, generally will not have a significant impact on the effectiveness of the glasses. So that's why we actually still sell them, because we look at it and go, it's not really a problem for the way most people would use them. Now, that beyond that though, like, and this is an interesting thing, we sold the glasses for a number of years, right? And I started looking at things and going, are the glasses a band-aid to a bigger problem? Like we're using these to filter out harmful light, right? And it's like, okay, well, where are we getting all this light from? Well, the biggest source of the light, artificial light exposure we're getting at night, is all the lights in our home. The screens are a problem, absolutely. TV screens, phone screens, all that. But if you think about how many lights you have in your home, and everyone turns them on at night, we don't live in darkness, right? And so they're on for predominantly from sunset till the time you go to bed, and they're predominantly having the biggest impact or the most significant signaling to our brains that, hey, the sun's up. These are all little artificial suns, and they don't. That your ancient brain that's developed through thousands of years doesn't understand that this modern technology is not the sun. The only natural source of blue light in our environment is the sun, so it thinks it's that. Why don't we change that? Why don't we change like that? I'm like, we're using these damn glasses to like filter it out. Why why negate the need to filter it in the first place?
Right.
Like why are we developing lighting? Why are we developing lighting and using lighting that makes us need to wear glasses? That was like and I was like, man, I'm just like selling glasses here. Like I'm by no means a lighting engineer, but hey, there's a way. When there's a will, there's a way, right? So
Yeah.
I spent a good year and a half in R&D and contacting lighting engineers and working out like the structure of light bulbs and how they work and what can we do with them and what the problems are with the lighting, because it's not just the emission of the light frequencies that come out of them. There's other issues which we can talk about. And so that's what we did. We developed a light bulb. Like we were like, let's just develop a light bulb that removes all the issues with the lighting. So then when you have them on in your home, it's not just you that's wearing the glasses that benefits. Your whole family will benefit from this by default, because what you'll normally find in a family is like there'll be like one person that's like on the health craze, right? And it's like trying to get the buy-in from it might be the wife, right? And it's like trying to force the kids to wear it, and the husband's like, what are you up to? And like, but like a simple thing, like, right, you change all the lights in your home and it's like, well, by default, like everyone benefits. Like just turn on the light switch, right? Or like, so that was a real big shift for our business, right? Is like, how can we really look at people's light environments, and how can we create products, particularly around the light sources being emitted, to be more beneficial to us? And we started with this one light bulb, just a basic, I wouldn't say basic, but a light bulb that focused on the removal of the blue light spectrum in the evening. So these would be used in the evening in place of normal lighting. And yeah, we went from there, and we really started to expand on different products based around lighting as opposed to glasses. Glasses are still needed because we talked about the screens, the phones, the TVs. We don't have the influence so much over like phone manufacturers, screen manufacturers. So like the glasses always will have their place. And for example, you can't control the light environment in your office. So it's very, very difficult to tell corporate office to change all their lighting. So the glasses still have their place. But that was a really big shift, I guess, in what we did. And I think, again, being one of the first movers to actually do this, because it's being done, but again, like I looked at it and said, it's not being done right. Like, for example, I'll give you a really good example of this. Like most people are familiar with like Philips lighting systems, like Philips Hue.
That's what I use.
Yeah. Ooh, I can.
Yeah.
You're not gonna like me after this, man.
No. Please. I mean, listen. Hey, this is why we're here. You know what I mean?
So this is an interesting one, because the Philips Hue has been around for quite a while now, and the issue with them is Philips is not they don't care about your health, man. Like they're not here to. You look at the box or any of the advertising around it. Is it around like living a healthier lifestyle and getting your light environment to be more like biological and circadian friendly? Nah, it's about creating a hue. Literally what it says. Like it's doing exactly what it says on the tin. It's creating you different light environments to create different ambience, and you might want to make it uplifting, or you might want to make it real relaxing, but they're not talking about health and how light impacts your health. And the issue with that is when you unpack that type of light, there's a whole host of problems with it. Now, it is a little bit more beneficial than standard lighting. I'll give you that. Like there are benefits to it, but is it optimal? It's far from. And I'll unpack the different problems with it. So the first thing which we've talked about is the actual the color it emits. So it will create you a red or an orange or whatever color you want. But does it strip out, like for example, if you want an amber light at night, like our amber light, they may look visually the same, but has it stripped out the blue light, or has it just created that color by mixing a whole bunch of different colors together?
And
so now
really quick, so sorry. I think Gordon has shared the screen just for anyone curious about like what lighting he's talking about. So Dan, like while you're talking through this, if you want, you can refer to certain ones on here if you want. But
Okay.
I just thought I would throw that in there.
Yeah, cool. So the initial one I was talking about is the Sweet Dreams sleep bulb, which is the amber one. That was like our flagship product we first created. So if I look at that amber light and the amber light coming from your Philips Hue, for example, now they might visually look the same. Like you're like, yeah, well, these are the same. But so we've tested it. We've like, hold on, we want to see what's going on with these lights. Because like, for example, you can't get any information like what are the actual spectrums coming off these light sources. It's orange, right? Or it's amber. It's all. So the way they're doing it is they're not using the light source itself is generally just being manipulated in a way to create it. So it will still normally have blue and green light but they'll just manipulate it down a bit and up the reds and stuff. But when you look at the actual spectral output, it's still got blue in it, smaller amounts, but it's not optimal. It's still got it in there. They've never been designed. They never make any claims about removing blue light or helping with your sleep because that's not what they're ever intended to do. Again, they're not a health company. They're a lighting company, and they're creating different ambience of light for different moods and stuff like that. That's number one. Number two is a thing called flicker. So I haven't really talked about flicker at all. So flicker is an interesting one. So pretty much most LED light sources will have flicker in them. What flicker is it's the light source turning off and on very, very quickly. It's turning off so quickly that visually you don't generally see it. You don't perceive it through your sight. It's something that's not seen. But what it is your brain is actually processing that flickering image, and it's generally doing it 120 times a second. And I'll explain why it's 120 times a second soon. But what that's doing is causing neurological overload and stress on your brain, having to process an image turning off and on very, very quickly and processing it in a way so then you don't visually see that. So your brain's working overtime. What that leads to and the symptoms of that are very similar to the symptoms of overexposure to blue light. You get headaches, you get eye strain, your brain gets overworked, you feel anxious, you just feel worn down at the end of the day, that feeling of like tired and wide. Like people like, sometimes it's quite common, like I've been working in a corporate workspace for a while and people are just like, man, I feel like drained at the end of the day. And it's like, you realize you've been under this light source for like 8 hours and it's like your brain is probably working twice as hard as it has to just to deliver a visual image to you. So what causes flicker? Now this is interesting. So all the power sources into our home, mains power is called AC current, which is called alternating current. Why it's AC current versus DC, which is direct current, is the power station, your substation, has to get electricity from where it's generated into your home. In order to do that, it needs to pulse it down the line so it can travel a lot further distances into the home. And generally that's fine. Most things are built, like all our electrical devices are built for AC current. It's built to take in the pulsating current. Generally it's 50 to 60 hertz, so it's double that, the pulse rate. So it's 120 times a second it's pulsing in. Now, the older type of lighting we had was incandescent and halogen. That's a heat source light. So what that means is the electricity comes into the lighting, it heats up a filament, and that filament produces heat and light. So it can handle a current pulsing very quickly because the filament doesn't have enough time to cool down to create a complete on-off situation. There is still flicker in incandescent lighting, but it's not the same. It's not to the same intensity of it coming off and on. There's a little bit of a pulsing of it going lower and higher, which we don't really see. But so the higher the wattage in an incandescent, the better, because it's burning hotter to be burning brighter, so it doesn't really cool down as much. The issue with LED light sourcing is that I like to look at it like incandescent is analog and LED is digital. So digital light source, electricity is in, all the diodes inside it are lit up. When it doesn't have power, they all just shut down completely. Now, if you think about when you turn on an incandescent light bulb and then you turn it off at the light switch, it doesn't instantly turn off. It takes a long time for it to cool down. Now, if you turn off an LED light source, poof, it's just gone instantly because it's got no power. So what's happening with the AC currents coming in, it's pulsing, so the LED light is literally taking in the AC power and it's turning off and on as the power comes in. So you combine the wrong spectrum of light, combining that with the flicker, that's like you're compounding the issues of, now that's compounding the issues of eye strain, headaches, migraines,
Right.
neurological stress on the brain. One more issue as well with light sources, and particularly with the Philips Hue for a very good reason, and that's
Damn,
EMFs.
bro.
Yeah, I told you, man. I
Right.
was like, oh man, you're gonna hate me after this. Like,
Use foot on
Well,
blast.
but before you talk about EMFs, just quickly, I will note this is very, very, very poignant. So yesterday I was doing some content creation, shooting videos, and of course, like you, most like good videographers and good photographers, they have to factor in light. They've got to factor in all sorts of things, and it was the first time that when we were shooting in here, because again, I'm thinking I got my fancy lights, like, hey man, you want me to turn the temperature down on the lights? You want me to do this and do that? He's like, actually, do you mind just turning them off? Because I'm getting a lot of flicker. And I was like, huh? What? Nobody's ever told me that, you know? And it was interesting that because I turned off one and he was like, okay, that one's good. He's like, but the other ones are still flickering. He was like, oh, but this one doesn't flicker. And I think it was, I don't know, one of these other lamps or whatever. But I just found that to be interesting. And so when you mentioned flicker, I'm like, maybe that's why when I put on my night glasses, I actually do kind of like slowly shut down, and I feel myself kind of getting ready for sleep easier than when I don't wear my glasses with these lights on, even though they're red.
Yeah, so the glasses will help. So glasses can actually help mitigate the effects of flicker because you're mitigating the intensity of the light passing through into the eyes. So the flicker's still there, but to a much lower intensity. Interesting fact about flicker. So that's also a common way of to look if a light's got flicker sources. Grab your phone out, grab something that's filming, and film it even on slow-mo is better, and it will, like, because a phone camera can capture a higher frame rate than your eye can, right? So you'll generally see flicker coming through when you film it. But
Wow.
that's but the issue with that now. This is an interesting one because again, like, now it's becoming popular. Everyone's talking about flicker, and it's this thing, right? So like everyone's like, well, I've got to be in the marketplace and sell a bulb that's flicker free, and they'll literally just claim like, oh, look at our bulb, it's flicker free because if I film it with my phone, it doesn't show anything. And that's still not right. Like, you can have flicker that's not picked up by a phone. Like, you need a flicker meter. Like, it's an expensive piece of kit that will tell you literally the rate of the flicker, how much it's dropping and going up. It's called flicker percentage, and then you've got the flicker ratio. So it's not as simple as just creating this light bulb, slapping the word flicker free on it, calling it a health product, and then saying, look, see, you can use your phone and it's not there, because it's not quite that simple. So a trick.
Organic. It's organic, gluten-free, keto friendly.
Yeah, it's flicker free, man. It's a thing now. Like, and I'm like, all they're doing, it's a little trick. And it's like, so if you increase, so a standard bulb will it'll be 60 hertz. So it's exactly the same as the power coming in, right? So that's why you can see it. The flicker free bulbs that we see coming out, they just jack that hertz rating up to like 100, 120, so, or even up to like 200 hertz. So it's just doing it faster, so the phone can't pick it up, but it's still there. So ultimately, that's a little hack to hack the phone hack to check it, right? But what you actually need to do is actually create a light bulb that takes in that AC current. It's got a special driver unit in it that converts that AC into DC current and delivers a direct current source into the light diodes. It's expensive and it's complicated, and yeah, that's the only true way of doing it. So it's more, and it's what I mean. It's so hard to navigate out there now, because it's like, yeah, like the health, like gluten free, like all these buzzwords, right? Now, like, literally, I guess more so I'm a little bit closer to it, but in the lighting industry, it's like flicker free is just like shoved in there as a buzzword. I'm like,
interesting.
You got to be careful. Yeah. So, but if I just circle back to the last problem with your lighting, and so I kind of just started touching on it as EMF, so electromagnetic field. So most light sources will have a problem with this, and like most people that kind of understand what EMFs are, they'll think, oh, it's like Wi-Fi and it's cell phones and all that sort of stuff, and it is. That's your radio frequencies or RF fields. So now the question is this beneficial to our health? And the research sort of starting to come out that it's probably not so good to be overexposed to these frequencies of in
No,
our bodies on it.
the non-native ones, right? The
Correct.
non-native
Yeah.
EMFs. Yeah.
Absolutely, and they are like non-native. Yeah, they interfere with our own body's way to take in frequencies and run our cells in our body and our mitochondria and our energy system. So the issue with most light sources is they don't have RF or radio frequencies in them. Now your ones do. That's the problem. So like smart, anything smart, right? Like smart lighting.
Right.
So it's connected to an iPhone app. So normally it's emitting a frequency to then connect to your Wi-Fi router, so then you can control it. So the issue with that is now you've got your Wi-Fi router, like one source of in most homes, but now if you've got like 30 light bulbs, they're all beaming out a frequency, right? They're all trying to report in. So you've like just you've just like amplified that so much more than what it would be without that lighting. So that's with your smart type lighting. So that's a big problem. The other EMFs which exist out there are beyond RF. They're called electric fields, magnetic fields, and dirty power. So these are three other things that we commonly see in lighting. So electric fields and magnetic fields, everything that's electrical emits a field from it, which is technically an electromagnetic or an EMF. They're not generally they don't emit like as far as Wi-Fi and stuff, but you'll find they still can, if poorly designed, can emit a field quite far. Now these interrupt our body systems a lot more than the radio frequencies because they don't generally emit so far, and they are a much different frequency. So magnetic and electric can actually impact some people really detrimentally. So if you've got lighting that's emitting it like, a good 2-3 meters into the body, it can actually start to cause a lot of health effects. So again, it comes down to the design of the light bulb, and most of them won't be designed with health in mind. So they don't really, it's kind of like that thing, if like you can't see it, it's not harming you. So why should I be concerned? Because I turn on my light and I feel fine, but it's like,
right.
So, but that's just one field that we do address to go, hey, are we looking at all of the EMFs? And like, I guess we took a step back and said, okay, we're a health company. We're looking at health and wellness. Are we solving one problem over here, but creating another one over here in terms of health for the human system, right? And so kind of a value we stick by is like, it needs to be a true health product. It needs to be not causing detrimental health in any way based on the information we know. And like, I don't call myself an EMF specialist or expert, but I talk to people that are, and making sure I get them to test it and go, hey, like, you're an expert in this field. If someone's been exposed to this product, is it going to cause harm to their health? And if it is, well, then we need to go back to the drawing board and redevelop it and redesign it. So I guess that's kind of like, as a whole, what we apply as a thing onto all of our products is to go, okay, are we causing harm in an unrelated way that's going to make our health? What's the net effect? Is our health better or is it worse? Like from using it?
First, do no harm, right? As they say. So, okay, so now you got my head spinning, right? And it's all good because, this podcast is called Simply Walk the Talk, and I am one to listen, right? And so you got me thinking, all right, now that you know all of this stuff, or now that you've explained all this stuff, it sounds like your company is taking care of those issues, I would assume, right? Now, for someone like me, and I will admit, I've gotten very lazy when it comes to lighting, because one of the reasons why I wanted to get the Hue system, I thought I was getting it because of the whole changing the temperature of the light and all that stuff. Sounds like I wasn't doing it properly. So I'm going to fix something about that. But one of the things I do like about it is I can control all of the rooms from my phone, right? And I don't have to go, and again, I know this is lazy, but I don't have to go to one lamp, turn it on, go to another lamp, turn it on, So if I wanted to switch my lights out tomorrow, or, whenever, a week from now, do you guys have a solution to address that, the lazy person like me?
We'll come up with a solution. It's not to the degree of like the Hue convenience, right? Because it comes back to the discussion we had earlier around like being comfortable, right? And like,
touche.
Like, you just want the comfort. You don't like it's. But we have come up with a solution, right? We have so we looked at it and said, so I talked about the flagship bulb. We created the Sweet Dreams, the amber bulb. people loved it, but then we're getting comments like, love it, it's awesome for night, but like, I work in a dark office, or I need some lighting during the day. What do you recommend for the day? And I'm like, well, I can't really recommend our bulbs because they don't emit any blue light, and you need that during the day. But then I can't actually recommend any of the conventional light source for all the problems that has. So I was like, well, I don't really have a solution for you, but I'll work on one. Like, I'm always like, okay, well, that means we need to work on it. So what we started looking at is going, okay, well, what are the frequencies of light we need? So first of all, the problem was like, we need daytime lighting. We need to be able to shift and change the lighting based on the different times of the day to create the optimal light source. So I was like, well, what type of light do we need to be exposed to during the day? Well, that is very clear when you look at sunshine. It's called full spectrum light. So generally, what you'll find, it does vary throughout the times of the day, but generally from 10 a.m. through to 3 p.m., it's very similar spectrums of light. And what that is a full spectrum. It means it's got very equal amounts of blue, green, yellow, orange, red in it from a visible point of view. You look at it, it's a very even amount. Now, when you come indoors, our general indoor lifestyles won't have all the reds and the oranges and the yellows. It'll have predominantly the blues and the greens, which is what we use to make white light. So we've all been exposed to most of that light. We don't get any of the beneficial red spectrums or the other spectrums to balance out that light. So I was like, well, why don't we create something that does that? Like, right? So we looked at it, and we created a LED light bulb that emitted what we would call full spectrum light. We got it very, very close to the same spectrum as outdoor light from a visible standpoint. No UV, no IR, because that's very difficult to put into a residential light source. We can talk about what you can do to actually get those spectrums in as well. But so what we did, we created that, and I was like, awesome, here we go. Here's our solution. And then I'm like, hold on a minute. So I started using, and I was like, well, this is annoying because now I've got like these day bulbs, and well, then at nighttime, what do I have to like pull them out and like put the night ones in, or do I have to like have this light switch here? Oh, don't turn that one on because that's gonna like because like it's like freaking out. So like we developed it and we didn't take it to market. I was like, no, this is not gonna work. Like kind of half created the solution, but not fully. And I was like, hold on a minute. Well, we've got this night bulb, we've got this optimal day bulb. How do we like marry the two together? But again, fall back on our values, like do no harm, true health products. So EMFs are out. We can't do that. We can't go down the smart route because I know that the issues with that. So I was like, well, we need to create a way that we can have it all in one bulb and you can switch it. So what we did is we came up with a solution. So we've created a bulb. It's called the BioLight. And what that does, it's got that full spectrum day mode. It's got the night mode with no blue light, and it's got a middle mode in the middle, which is a warmer light, like a low blue setting that you could use early morning or late afternoon. Now, the way you switch it between the modes is you just go up to your light switch and turn it off and then turn it on again, and it will initiate a mode change. So you can just use your light switch to control it. So no smartphones, no remotes, no additional things to make this work. You just put it into your light source, and if you've got 4 lights hooked up to that one switch, well, you turn them off and then you turn them on, they all change.
Oh, it's like the like the old school lamps where you rotate the switch, and sometimes it'll have different levels or different temperatures. It sounds like it's kind of like that, right? Where you go click, 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 and it gets brighter.
But you're just using the light switch, the same switch you use to turn the thing on and turn it off again. Like you turn it on at some point, you just cycle through different settings. So you can go, okay, well, right now it's like the middle of the day, so I'm going to turn it to the day setting. And yeah, it literally lets you choose the setting you're on.
The BioLight. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's kind of like we've married all these things that are beneficial for us, because it's like, first of all, the issue we've got during the daytime is the indoor lifestyle doesn't give us full spectrum light. It gives us artificial blue light and green light without the other spectrums. Let's bring in a more natural spectrum to the indoor lifestyle, but then let's have it so we can manipulate that as we change throughout the different times of day and night, utilizing that same light source. I like to call it like circadian friendly lighting. Like it literally, you can marry it to the different phases of the sun to give you the right type of light source.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be looking into that because again, I mean, I spend all of my time and money and every bit of my fiber to be as healthy as I can. And if the man says I don't have my light right, then I need to get my light right. So I think I'm gonna do that. Yeah, this is super fascinating. Because again, it's like if you're taking care of this, then I'm sure there's other things that can be maximized. But I do like the idea of understanding flicker, understanding the fact that like even though it does look the color that I want it to look, there's still some blues and some greens and things like that. And then also the EMFs. I've never even considered the EMF side of it, which I have an EMF meter here and I've got, all that kind of stuff. And I never even considered that. But yeah, it makes sense. Really does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we've talked about the glasses, whether, it affects, the sides of the glasses or the top or bottom. You addressed that well. We addressed the home lighting with the light bulbs. What are some other things that you have found that was sort of necessary to create because of the need in the industry?
Yeah, so another thing would be on the glasses, because we kind of touched about the different ways it comes in, but there's different glasses needed for different times of the day to filter in different situations. And so when we started our business, we just started with an amber tint to be used at night to remove the blue light, and that was to help with your nighttime stuff. And then we saw this uprise in the blue light glasses industry, where like there's like these clear lens glasses, right? And they've got all these benefits. They help with your sleep. They help with everything, the Eyestrain and stuff. Yeah, there you go. So we actually have 4 different lens types. Like we're one of the only companies now that looks at different situations, different times of the days and different situations, and creates a different lens to align to that certain circumstance. So I'll break it down as briefly as possible over them too. So we've got 2 different day ones. We've got daytime lenses. Now we've got a clear lens. Now we call it a clear lens, but it's not clear, because like a typical clear lens, the $20 pair you buy off Amazon or the local fashion store or wherever you find them now, those are just mass manufactured in China, drop shipped, whatever. The people selling them have no idea how they work, what they do. They're just blue light glasses. They've got a bit of a reflection coating on them. You look at them, the light hits it, it shows a bit of blue light. You're like, cool, well, that's a blue light glasses. The issue with them is it's a little bit sciencey, but like most artificial light sources, like any LED backlit light source or LED lighting, it emits a certain frequency of blue light. It doesn't emit all blue light. So when we look at blue lights measured in wavelengths, which are called nanometers, so 400 to 500 nanometers is the full blue light spectrum. Your screens, your lighting, anything LED backlit will emit a very, very short, narrow bandwidth of 455 nanometers, so about midway through the blue light spectrum. Most of those glasses you're buying, they will block UV light, and they'll claim it like, hey, these block UV light. And I'm like, first of all, none of your devices are emitting blue UV light, and you're indoors using them. UV light doesn't generally make it indoors because it's filtered through glass. So what's the claim here? Like, but it sounds good, right? Because UV light is harmful, so we should be blocking it. So anyway, that's just one thing. The next thing is most of them won't filter any at 455 nanometers. Now we've tested it with spectrometers. They can normally get, with that reflective coating, they'll get most of the violet light, and they'll get a little bit of the lowering, like maybe 410 to 420 nanometers of light, anywhere from 5 to like 20% of it. You might say, hey, but I've seen that cool like blue light pen trick where they like shine the blue light at the lens and it doesn't come out the other side, therefore it's blocking it. Well, the issue with that is we got one of those we bought a pair because they give them to you with the glasses so you can validate that your glasses are working, right? Now that laser pointer doesn't even emit blue light; it emits violet light at around the 380 nanometer mark. So violet light can kind of be perceived as blue light. So this is the issue with all the clear lenses on the market, right? They're just 99% of them are junk. They don't do anything. If you feel like you're getting benefits from it, it's most likely placebo effect, that you think you're getting benefits, so you're getting them. But from a scientific standpoint, they're not filtering any of the light that's coming off your phones and the lighting and all that. That 455 nanometers is a very important thing to look at. And if you look at the glasses you're buying and it doesn't even talk about wavelengths or frequencies and how much it's blocking them by, well, the fact is they probably don't know themselves and they're not doing anything. So what we do with our clear lens, we call it clear, but it's got pigmentation inside it, but ultimately it looks relatively clear to when you're looking through it, like color perception's all there. We put a special pigmentation inside the lens, so when the blue light passes through, it does have a bit of a reflection coating on there, which will bounce that nice pretty blue off, so you think it's thing. But as it's passing through, the pigments inside the lens actually absorb light frequencies as they come through. So we're able to absorb the blue light frequency at the 455 nanometer, bring it down by 50%. So that's very good for the daytime. It's bringing down the overexposure to blue light down to a more natural level. So it's not causing the headaches, the eye strains, the overexposure in the eye, which is irritating the eye and causing eye damage, because blue light in isolation without the other color frequencies is causes oxidative stress and damage. So blue light in nature actually does the same thing, but in nature from the sun, we get blue light, which causes breakdown, cell damage, oxidative stress, but there's red light in it as well. Red light does the complete opposite. Red light is healing and regenerative. So you mix the two together, the net effect is it doesn't cause damage. You come indoors, you strip away all the beneficial frequencies, you only leave the blue light frequency in it, it only causes damage. There's nothing to regenerate and heal. So that's why you'll see like red light therapy is a big thing right now, because it's trying to supplement the indoor lifestyle of not getting enough of those frequencies that have such healing and regenerative effects in the body. You know, it's a bit of a tangent, but so that's what those daytime glasses need to do. So that's what you need to look for when you're buying a set. You need to look for, is the company talking about different frequencies? If they are, that's great. Next step is, can they back that up with evidence? So it's all good posting on your website, it does this and it does that, and 450 nanometers is block. Show me a spectrometer or a light spectrum report that shows me that evidence. And now that's any company with its weight in gold that understands this will actually own a spectrometer or have some sort of lab that's done testing reports on their lenses that they can produce to a customer to look at. If they can't produce them, well then again, it's the same thing. They're probably just mass producing, don't understand it, have no idea what they're actually selling. So those are two things with the clear lenses. They're a little bit harder to navigate because like they're not blocking it all. Like when you're blocking blue light, it's a bit easier to tell, right? Like, can I see blue through the lens? Well,
right.
Yeah, no, like it's like, well, yeah, if I can see blue, then well, they're not blocking it. But like during the day, you're not blocking it, so you're gonna still see the color blue. You really need that analysis done by a proper piece of equipment to tell you those frequencies that are being blocked. The next one that we do is a yellow lens. So a yellow lens for the daytime as well. The main difference between the clear lens and the yellow lens, which is our day max lens, that will reduce that 455 nanometer spike right down to 0. Now, what it will do though is it will allow, so from 400 to 455 nanometers, blue light's eliminated, and that's primarily what we're getting from artificial light sources inside. But of course, we need blue light during the day. That's what we need to feel awake, alert, regulate our mood. So we then allow blue light from 460 to 500. That is all allowed through the lens. So that allows your circadian rhythms to not be altered. It allows you to still produce dopamine, serotonin, the things we need. Now, these are typically better for people that are ultra light sensitive. They get very severe migraines, headaches, where dropping that down by 50% with the clear lens is not quite enough, right? So we found when we produced the clear lens that 90% of people do really well with them, and something like, look, it's helped, but I'm still like, man, I'm working in a mall or somewhere where it's just like real intense lighting and it's not enough. So the yellow lenses are a better option because they're bringing that, they're completely eliminating that, but we're not putting them in a set of night lenses where, hey, now you're like blocking out too much and now you're starting to feel a bit like low mood and sleepy during the day. So that's why it's important that you actually don't start to block too much light during the day, because now you're going to actually start to alter your circadian rhythms in the wrong way. Right. So those are the two day lenses. And then if we move on, we've got two different night lenses just to confuse people even more. So we've primarily been talking about blocking blue light. So, and I think you even touched on it around green light. So there's been a piece of research done in the early 2000s that pretty much looked at every frequency of light and how much it would or wouldn't disrupt melatonin. So melatonin is our sleep hormone that helps us get deep and restful sleep. So you obviously want to have optimal levels of melatonin. Blue light is what suppresses melatonin at night. That's the traditional thinking, right? But they wanted to look at, well, let's just look at every single color frequencies in nanometers and look at the level of melatonin suppression. And so what they found was the peak suppression of melatonin happened at 480 nanometers, I think it was. So yeah, right, just after the midpoint section of blue light. But what was interesting is melatonin was disrupted all the way up to 550 nanometers. So blue light actually finishes at 500 nanometers, and then green goes from 500 to 570. So three quarters of the green light spectrum also suppresses your melatonin. So everyone that's wearing blue blockers, blocking blue light, it's getting most of the job done. But is it optimal? It's not. Like it is like when you look at that suppression graph, it's a bell curve, right? So it's peaking all the way up to that 480, and then it's coming all the way down. So like by the time you hit 500 nanometers, the suppression element is a lot lower than what you're getting from the blue light. So green light is impacting us less. But if we're looking at like, I guess like biohackers and like health optimization people, they want the best, right? You want to like dial it in so you're getting the best. Like people that are like performance athletes and stuff and like optimizing sleep, you want to make sure you're doing it right. And so you need to block 400 to 550 nanometers for that. So we created that. That was our signature night lens that we created. It's called our Nightfall lens. It's more of a darker orangey red lens, because when you start stripping out more colors, you need to make the tint darker essentially. So we started selling that, and we're like, this is one you need to wear. It's most optimal. Like, don't bother, this is it. And then some of the feedback. So over the years, we're watching the feedback coming in, and for most people like you and me, we're like, this is it. This is awesome. Like, I love the sleep I'm getting. And hey, like, yeah, everything's a bit red and orange, but that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
the benefits outweigh the inconvenience, right? Like the inconvenience of seeing everything in orange or red, it's fine. But I guess like everyone's not like us though, and that's what we've learned. Like people like maybe recommended them, or they're just on the start of their health journey, or they're not quite bought into it, right? You throw a set of red lenses at them, they're like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, no way, man. I can't watch my TV show. It's not on full color or anything. Everything's red, or like. And with what we'd see is those sort of people would go, nah, don't want it. I'm sending it back. I'm going to go back to my old lifestyle. And I'm like, well, that's like, well, so it's like an all or nothing situation. I was like, well, what happens if we create a solution that, okay, it isn't the most optimal, but it's at least maybe it's going to get someone across the line to at least wearing them, and not as opposed to wearing nothing. So we came in over the top after we created the Nightfall lens and created our sundown lens. And what that is blocks 100% of blue light, but does not block any of that green light spectrum. So you're getting like 80% of the benefits. It's not optimal, but it's way more usable to use in the evening. Like the tint's a lot lighter. So the people that just they're like, hey, yeah, I want to improve my sleep, but man, I'm not looking to like dial it in to be walking around in red lens. Like I want to see a bit more usable color. So it was kind of like, let's create a solution for everyone. Like, because I'd rather have someone wear those than wear nothing. And that's what we were seeing with some people. They're like, nah, don't want the red lenses. I'm just returning them, and I'll just go back to my old way. So I guess we've tried to think about all the different solutions of different light filtering for different people, different stages in their health journey, different, I guess, what levels of importance that they put on it. So that's the kind of the thinking behind all our different lenses.
That's incredible. Very thorough. Yeah, man. You really got the wheels spinning in my head, because it's like a science experiment, or you're giving me a lesson in light therapy right now. And I kind of thought that I knew a lot about lights, and I guess I've learned a lot more today. That's for sure. Okay, so you've got the glasses, you've got and the variety of glasses for a multitude of people. We've talked about the indoor lights with the bulbs, and the different ones there. I know also, like when looking at the website, you have the computer screen cover, and also since I have you on, I mean, you might be the perfect person to ask, but there's a lot of people who know about the different options in apps that they can use on their phones or their computers or their laptops or whatever. Can you maybe talk about just quickly some of the other accessories you have, and then maybe touch on whether that's good or bad? Because now you're telling me my lights in my house are not good. So, I mean, is it worth it to even tone down the phone screen?
Yeah, the phone screen. So yeah, in terms of other things we've got, so yeah, a whole host of different lighting products beyond light bulbs, like book lights, lamps, night lights, like solutions to make more practical, like when you're traveling, right? That's another thing. It's like traveling, man. Like you can set up your light environment perfectly. You like go to a hotel room. You're like, what do I do here? Like I literally used to travel. I used to travel with light bulbs. Like I just go and swap all the light bulbs. And
I
then
believe it.
and then you'd forget them when you leave, and you're like, fuck. Like just like. So like we've got like portable lamps now that are like battery powered and stuff, right? So you can take them with you. But the other real key accessory we have is sleep masks. Now this is an interesting one because you could do all the things, like the daytime stuff, the nighttime stuff, do it all right, and then you like, yep, got my glasses on, like doing it all right, and then literally get bedtime, like turn all the lights out, take the glasses off, and then like you've got all this light pollution coming in your room, right? It's like, in a way, you're like undoing all that work because the light pollution has blue light in it, which is coming into your eyes at lower levels, but then that is ultimately not pure darkness for your brain anymore. So it's lowering your deep and REM sleep cycles down because there's a low level of lighting, which we've evolved to sleep under dark, like in a cave, like pitch black, right? So using a sleep mask, well, you got two options. You can either get blackout blinds for your room, like kit it out so it's like pitch black in your room, or look for a sleep mask that will actually block 100% of the light. So it needs to come kind of seal around the eyes, allow the eyes to still open, which so it's comfortable. But that's a key thing, right? Like, because you've done all the wrong stuff right up to bedtime. Like now's when the magic happens. You don't want to undo it all, like, and then get like suboptimal sleep. So so essentially assuring that you have a dark environment, whether that be by altering the blinds and stuff in your room to make it dark, or altering it for your eyes by putting on a sleep mask. Great for traveling as well, because like, again, you're not going to travel with blinds. Like, well, I'll tell you one thing. I did used to travel with some black tape and like tape up windows and all sorts of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
But so that's one good thing to have, like, is in your toolkit. Yeah, interesting to touch on, like the phone screens and like the screen protectors and filters and stuff like that. So like we have an iPhone one for the iPhone. Now we created this before, like way back when they first came out, right? And there was no apps or anything to put on your phone. So they've since, like, Apple's released Night Shift and stuff. So technically, like, the benefit of our screen protector is it does filter blue light, but it also provides protection to your screen at the same time. It doesn't rely on you to turn on the app, so that's the benefit. But in all honesty, you don't need it. Like, you can start to use these apps. Now I'll just discuss the apps a bit, because people think, oh, night shift mode, like it's perfect, or the night mode on Apple and Microsoft, they've all got them now in some shape or form. The issue with it is they don't remove all the blue light. They reduce it down. You'll see your screen turn to like a yellowy hue, and that's really good for the daytime. Like, it's like night shift mode. It should be like day mode. Like, I literally have mine on all the time. It's on 24/7. And the issue is that even at night, like, there's another two pieces of software which are really good to use. You've got Eyestrain, which is another piece of software you can put on your computer where you can manipulate the levels of blue light during the day. And there's another one, a free one called like f.lux. So both are really good. Yeah, Iris is a little bit better. It's a little bit more, it's like $10 or something. But like, he also addresses flicker in screen, so he has the ability to manipulate the flicker in it. So it's probably worth $10, in my opinion. It does very similar things in terms of blue light exposure. But the issue with all of them is you've got a hardware problem you're trying to solve with software. So just think about it for a minute. So it's a hardware problem of the screen. Now you're running a piece of software to try and solve the problem. So we actually wrote an article on this because we looked at it and said, well, like, are these apps working? Like, can they truly work? And from a hardware standpoint, can it work? And it can, but it can't optimally, because there's a thing in LED screens called LED backlight bleed. So when you look at for example, if you look at a screen and there's no image on it, it's just black, right? But when it's turned on versus it's turned off, you can tell. Like, there's a kind of like a white, like, so if it's black and you turn the screen on, you'll know, even though there's no image on it. And that's the bleed coming through the LED, like, because there's a light source behind it that's emitting the light, and then it's been altered to different colors. So at black, it's technically there's still an element of white light coming through, and that rings still true when you manipulate the color temperatures through the software apps. There is an element of black backlight bleed that still continues to happen. So if you're using it at night without any glasses on, you're reducing the blue light down, but you're not eliminating it. And you don't have any feedback mechanism in the piece of software to tell you that you've eliminated blue light or you haven't, because they just have a like, hey, there's a warm setting and there's an extra warm setting and there's this setting, and there's no like you need a spectrometer, which is like $3,000 to like point it at your screen and then check, which I do because I've got that to check, and it doesn't it doesn't work. Like you can get it to a good point, but then if you like, for example, you put on a set of glasses that have been verified to eliminate these frequencies, well, you know that you got these on, like you're fine. Like you know that 100% that it's being blocked. So the apps are good, but they're not the solution for everything, like especially at nighttime. Like, they're really good for the daytime. Like right now, the reason I'm talking to you without glasses on is because I've got Iris Tech running on my screen right now. There's a big yellow tint to it. I've got a window right here. I've got no artificial lighting that's detrimental. All this is our own light sources in here, which is flicker free. So like I don't have the need right now to wear glasses, but that's not the case for like 90% of people in the workplace, right? They don't have that ability to control things. They may have the ability to put the software on their computers. That's a good first step. I would recommend everyone does it. Again, it's either free with Flux or it's $10 with Iris. So
amazing. Yeah, I get it. It's very clear. I always find it interesting because not only do I, and I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but not only do I use the night shift, I also turn down the intensity of the light. And anytime I'm like passing my phone to someone, one of the first things they say is like, "Why is your phone so dark?" And why, or not even dark, but like, "Why is it like turn up the brightness, please?" And why is it like this amber color? And I'm like, it's like it's a long conversation, but it's just like it's just healthier for me. So hopefully that's that is still the case. But
I'll give you one more hack as well. This is a free
please,
one. So
please.
this is my phone. This is like so what you can do to it is you can actually eliminate all the blue light. So I'll just triple click. Now if I go, now
Wow.
there's no blue light in there. So you can actually turn your iPhone screen red, and like you can set it all up so there's a shortcut. So if I could use that at night, and essentially there's no blue or green light in that. Like yeah, it looks weird, right? Like what the fuck? Like, but you can still read on it. You can still do things and interact with your phone in the evening. Jump on our blog. Our blog's got it. It's called How to Turn Your iPhone Screen Red.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Yeah, like is it a quick video? Maybe we could just play it.
Oh, I don't think there's a video. We've written
Wait,
about
can
it.
you just do it again real quick? I'm trying to do it right now, actually.
So like, so I've got like set up like that, so I can triple click, and then it comes up with a shortcut saying color filters, and then I hit the color filters. There we go, it goes red.
But you set that up though, right? You had to do that. It doesn't just come standard, does it?
No, not standard. So on our blog,
I'm trying to. me and Gordon and I are like,
wait, what?
Mine doesn't do that. No,
they should. That'd be, yeah.
Yeah. So the blog we've written will tell you how to set that up. Pretty much. It's not that hard though. It's pretty easy. You just got to go into your like accessibility settings, set the color tone, and then you create a shortcut to that. So the shortcut is the triple click on you. So you can set a shortcut on your phone to anything. So you can triple click and it can do something. So I just set mine to the color filter. But yeah, it's quite interesting because like Apple don't like actively promote that, right? Like it's like you've got to like they don't want to say like, hey, like here's a way to make, because like they don't want to tell you that actually the color that it does emit is actually bad for you, right? Because that's like
touche.
Yeah. So that and I was just going to say that's what most of these manufacturers are doing. They're introducing these features like night shift mode, but they don't really want to talk about it that much. They're like, it's more like, it's like a reactive thing. So like if you come to them and say like, your phone screen is like destroyed my health, about no, we always had that in there, man. Like it was there, but like they're not going out and saying like, hey, you need to use this because our
Yeah.
the way you use your phone is actually harming your health. Like
That's the same with data and
yeah.
privacy. It's like, oh yeah, if you want to turn off giving all your data, you can now.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well said. Well said. Wow, man, this is great. I mean, I think I mean, if you don't have a video of it, maybe that'll be a great piece of content to create. And maybe I'll do it for you. Yeah. So yeah, like were you able to find that, Gordon, the blog entry on the website?
I could find it. What's it under?
Just go into if you just even search iPhone Red, probably on our website, it should come up.
I'm looking for it now too.
Okay, here we go. I see it now.
Oh, you got it? Oh, dope. Okay, perfect. So how to turn your iPhone screen red. All right, yeah. So maybe we'll do. I'll create something around that. I think it's a really cool thing. I have heard of this before a long time ago, but when I listened to whomever was describing it, I was like, I'm good because I got the night shift mode and I got the glasses. But it sounds like it might be worth having at least as an option, right? So
Yeah, and sometimes like, oh, it's me as well. Like you might just need to grab your phone quickly. Like you don't have the glasses. I can't be bothered to get glasses. Like if you've got your phone on, I just turn my phone on to red anyway. Like you might even want to check the time in the middle of the night, right? Worst thing, like blue light into the eyes. But like I know I can confidently just pick up my phone in the middle of the night and it's gonna be red. It's not gonna have that blue coming out of it. So
perfect. All right, so we're obviously getting a little long. I'm having a wonderful time chatting with you, and maybe we have to just get you back on. But I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to kind of mention whatever you think is important, because everything we've talked about so far has been eye-opening, pun intended. And I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to kind of explain some of the more important things. So is there anything else that you can think of that that you haven't had a chance to talk about so far?
Well, the main things is like, it doesn't have to be so complicated, right? Like some of the best things are for free. Like, there are like the light bulbs and all this stuff and the glasses and stuff, but like the number one thing is like what I did earlier, like get outside. And like the first thing is do that in the first thing in the morning, because the morning light is very, very important to enter our eyes before any artificial light does as well. Because what happens when artificial light comes into your eyes straight away in the first thing in the morning, if you look at your phone or turn on the lighting, is like you instantly instruct your brain that it's midday. It skips the circadian rhythm, skips that is very, very beneficial to us. It's got lots of reds, infrared in it, and the color temperatures are winding up. So that light coming into your eyes in the morning is a signal to your brain, and it anchors that circadian rhythm. So that's very important to getting your all the other hacks and stuff is like get outside.
I'm smiling really big right now because here I am thinking that before this call, I was like, yeah, I got this whole light thing figured out. I know the importance of what you just mentioned in terms of getting this light first thing in the morning to kind of set the circadian rhythm. And I knew not to go straight white, blue, bright light, because what you mentioned about it signaling to the brain that it's midday. So I had this setting on my app with the hue lights that says early morning, right? So I have like this early morning light. But now I guess I gotta change all that. But I'm happy to do it because it's all in the name of health, right? So
yeah, and that
cool.
That is an interesting one, because there are things like wake lights and all these sort of things coming out, and I'm like, oh, like it just when I look at that, I'm like, it does what it says on the tin. It wakes you up, but it takes you straight takes you straight to
steroid lights.
Yeah, like
yeah.
it's like, holy shit. Like, and again, it's like that thing around
of nights.
It's like
right.
it's missing all those beneficial spectrums of red. So it's waking you up, but then it's causing damage to your eyes over that long term, and it's what we call phase shifting your circadian rhythm. It's shifting it instantly to midday based on the spectrums, and then like, so what does that do to you at night? Like your brain just ends up in a state of confusion essentially. Like the way it's been entrained is like that system, that circadian system, has been entrained by us living outdoor lifestyles, right? And just because now we live indoors doesn't mean that system has suddenly changed the way it operates. And it's just doing, the human system is just doing exactly what it's been designed to do. But just the way the environments we live in are just like confusing it essentially.
Well, I appreciate all of that. I do think what you're doing is very enlightening, and I'm happy that we have people out there like you that are doing things like this. And just quickly looking at the website, I see, because obviously at the beginning of the show we mentioned that you're in New Zealand, but you have the store in US, I guess Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and Canada, right?
Yeah. So we're four locations at the moment. So we've positioned ourselves around the world as we've grown, just to try and enable us to reach everyone everywhere, sort of thing. Yeah. So that's kind of how we're set up at the moment. Run here from our team in New Zealand, but trying to take on the world.
I think you're doing a really good job at it, and I certainly will be in touch after this in terms of figuring out how to kit out my apartment. And well, one of these days I'll have a much healthier light set up here. Nice. So much appreciated there. So okay, so I always ask 2 questions at the end of the show, just to kind of go a little bit deeper into the guests that I have on the show. And it's an interesting way to kind of allow me and allow the listeners and viewers to kind of understand you a bit better. So the first question I like to ask is, what are your top 2 pet peeves?
Okay. One of them we've already touched on, because it is a big one for me, is like, so yeah, heavily related to the blue light glasses industry and stuff. It's the pet peeve is, it's a bit twofold. So it's, first of all, and it's what I touched on about all the Amazon glasses, all the drop shippers, all these low quality products, and people not understanding why they're low quality. But then on the counter, then you've got like experts coming in saying they don't work, and it's because the context is applied to the wrong ones, right? So you'll see like, oh, that's been debunked. It's not like blue light's not a problem. Like there's no research, there's no science on it. I'm like, but there is, and I'm screaming from the rooftop. Like we have literally a page on our website now called Science, and I break down a whole bunch of the site. Like, here's the research, here is the PubMed studies on what blue light's doing to you. Like one day I just got so fed up with it, and like people just trying to say like, oh, you're like, you're a scam artist, you're just trying to like make money, and I'm like, all right, now it's time to like literally have a resource where I can just go, okay, well, here you go to this page, look at this, and then come back to me and tell me how there's no research on it. So we've broken down like, this is the issue with flicker and lighting, here's the research. This is the issue around green light, here's the research. This is the studies showing the benefits of literally wearing blue light glasses. This is the studies of how blue light impacts different health outcomes. So like, there it all is, but that's the peeve, because I still have to like fight to like get people to understand, and I kind of get it because of the industry and all the actual junk that there is in the market. So people are like, oh yeah, I bought those and they didn't do anything, sort of thing. So that's really big. And it actually reminds me of like the constant conversations I have when people talk about like, and it's not just applied to the one thing, but one of the common ones I get is like, oh, meat is bad for me, right? So I'm cutting out meat. And the first thing I think is just like, well, what kind of meat? And what quality of meat are you talking about? Was this grass-fed, grass-finished? Is it organic? Is it, a hamburger from McDonald's or Arby's or something, right? Like, so it's very different. And it's the same thing with this whole lighting situation, right? It's like, what studies are you referring to? And did you even care to look at the study, or did you hear someone say that, so now you're readapting it? So yeah, anyway. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep.
It's a good one.
The next one is more general to apply to health as a whole, and like just being around health and wellness for the last like 10 years and looking at it all and seeing it evolve is like we overcomplicate it. And it annoys me. It's like it doesn't need to be so complicated, right? Like it's you can apply some very basic principles to like health, and it's like a lot of it's just like going back to nature and how things were, right? Like it's not like, oh, I need to like what diet is this and like this. It just gets so like people keep like I get asked like because I'm like mates like, oh, you're all healthy. Oh, what diet are you on? And I'm like, I'm not on any diet. I just like eat whole food and I like, like just don't eat junk.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, and I go outside and I move. It's like, yeah, it's like get outside, move and eat well, eat whole foods. Like it's like, but people are like looking for the thing that's gonna, and it's like it's getting more like, oh, I need the latest biohack to be healthy. I'm like, no, man, you don't. Like, you just need to like a quite common thing. And and this is a bit of a is the term biohacking, right? Like, I think we're all being biohacked currently in the world, in the environment we live in, as a way of looking at like. And what I like to say is what I'm trying to do is like look at how like because our environment is biohacking, is hacking our biology, not necessarily for beneficial reasons. Like if you look at all the if I focus it on lighting and stuff, or even just food and stuff, is like we're all being biohacked into bad health. And I'm like, how can I undo that? And the way I undo that is look at such basic fundamentals of health, right? Is like just get back to nature, get back to moving more, eating whole food, and don't sit here and like overcomplicate it.
Well said. To your point, I struggle so much with the term biohacking, not because it well, mostly just because a lot of people have one idea of what it means. And like you, I try to sort of broaden it a little bit to say that like we're all doing it, right? But we don't have to consider it, right? Just because I use a red light laser device for my, knee or whatever, that doesn't constitute me being a biohacker, because that's no different than me going out and putting my bare feet on the ground, right? And they're both doing something to kind of change the biology, right? Or has an effect on the biology. But most people are looking at it today as like, oh, you're a biohacker. Oh, okay. So like what? Like how many tools do you have? It's like, no. I go and swim in the water, even if it's, middle of winter. You know what I mean? It's like this is kind of what I'm trying to do with it. So I respect that what you just mentioned, because I do think that there's a lot of misinformation, and I think like almost like a negative connotation to the term now. So I struggle with putting that on my profile anymore. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I know we were talking about this, Gordon, before figuring out the lower third, right? Like do we put biohacker on there, or do we stick with like I'm talking I now prefer the term health optimization. And even that is something like I wish there was a better way to describe the journey of going to optimization, right? Because like health optimization almost makes a person think that there is an end point, and I don't think there really is, right? We should always be evolving, right? So maybe it's health evolution, something like
journey.
that. Yeah, exactly.
But when you think about what biohackers do, like in that general sense of the tools and the things they're using to optimize their health, ultimately it's a way of trying to manipulate, like going back to basics in a way. Like for example, the glasses and all that, it's trying to simulate the same environment you would have been in a natural environment. So most of it is that. So that's why it doesn't need to be that complicated. If you think about the basics of just going back to basics, there's tools and stuff you can help you get there, but don't overcomplicate it in your own mind to be like, there's something I need, that I need this thing because it's gonna like take my health to a further level. But if you just think back to the basics and go, well, am I living in a basic natural environment? No, I'm not. Well, what can I do to bring myself closer to there? Because that's where I'll find better health. And now, you can use the glasses and the biohacking tools to do it, but just don't overcomplicate it.
Mother Nature is the ultimate hacker.
That's it.
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, this has been so fun. And I've totally kind of lost the concept of time, which is great because I don't really care. I don't have anything else to do after this except I'm in the middle of a prolonged fasting diet. Are you familiar with prolonged,
Nah, I'm not. No,
Daniel?
I'm not.
No? Okay. Yeah. So I'm fasted and I get the opportunity to have a soup for dinner when I finish this. So that's what I'm up to today. But yeah, for all the people that hopefully are still listening and watching and enjoy this conversation, what is the best way to keep in touch with you and what you have going, like the socials and the website and all that stuff?
Yes.
Can you mention?
Yes. Yeah, so you'll find us on most of the social platforms. So Instagram, BlockBlueLight_official. You'll find us there. Haven't been posting on there as much as we want to, but we do try and provide good content on there. Our website is like where we have like the most knowledge and resource. So blockbluelight.com is probably the best place to come in. The blog is where I spend a lot of my time with education, and we've probably got 80 to 90 articles on there at the moment. We're really trying to unpack and give lots of good consumable information that people can use to empower themselves in their lives and make it healthier choices. And not only that, but understand it more. So it's not like, hey, like buy these glasses and buy these light bulbs. Like I want you to understand why you need them. That's like part of my mission, right? So that's an awesome resource. And then, but the other thing is just reach out to us. Like we love people getting in touch if it's like don't understand this and want some advice on what they need to do for their environment and stuff. So the contact us form on there. Jump on to either Facebook chat as well. We're on there. I even jump in and answer some of the questions when I can. So that's the best ways to get hold of us.
Amazing. Well, this has been such a really cool moment, even to challenge myself, right, with a number of the things that we talked about. And throughout this episode, it's been one of those things where I've kind of rediscovered what I need to do to focus on it, because it's almost like I say to other people, don't just try to fix something and it's fixed, right? Check back in, retest, test. Talk to people like yourself who is more of an expert in lighting than I probably ever would be. And I realize now that I have an opportunity to make my home healthier, right? And maybe I had a good start, but what I learned in chatting with you is that we definitely have places to go, right? So we can carry this on. And so that's a bit of a recap. If you didn't get a chance to listen to all this, definitely go back. You might have to like take notes and, check in with Daniel or check in with me if you want. Also, BlockBlueLight and Daniel has been very gracious enough to give me and the listeners and viewers of this podcast a discount. So you get a 15% discount at blockbluelight.com. And that discount code is Josh15. So if you're curious like me, I'm probably going to buy up everything on the store and transform my environment. But yeah, this has been fun. And again, don't forget to go check out all the socials, check out all the websites, and hit us up, give us feedback, let us know, is Daniel and his company bullshit or is it really working, right? So, but yeah, this is Josh from Simply Walk the Talk signing out. Daniel, thanks for your time. Thank you to the listeners and viewers. Peace.
Cheers.
Simply walk the talk.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seat belts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen.